Hi there, Lifestyle Reset, Movement Wins, Coffee with Joffy. If you're there now live and you're watching, make sure you let me know, say hi. If not, like always, I'll save it to the post and you can watch it later on. So, got a few questions today. Started off by Daisy, which I will go through nice and quickly and try and give you my best answers possible. Got my sidekick, Cat's here in the background as well. All right, so let's get started. So Daisy asked, what is the importance of breathing and breathing technique during exercise? And then she says, hope everyone had an amazing Xmas and New Year. I hope you did as well, Daisy and everyone else. So back in the new year, back into our routines. Breathing technique during exercise, yeah, it is important. It's probably not the most important thing that you need to be thinking about, but definitely when you get to a level where you're starting to lift more weight than perhaps you did before, you're moving more weight in some of your compound exercises. Breathing is important. So a nice easy way to kind of introduce your breathing technique is whenever you're exerting energy. So imagine you're in a bench press, you're lying flat and you're pushing the weight away, or you're pressing a bar above your head, or you're at the bottom of your squat, and as you stand up, you want to focus on breathing out. Okay, so you're exhaling. And on the other portion of the lift, so as you're bringing the bar down, as you're bringing the bar down to your chest, as you're going down into your squat, you're going to inhale. All right, so it'll be a nice deep breath in to load up the lungs, really support that core, okay? And then obviously you're exhaling on the way out just to give yourself that little bit of a push. Listen, it's not going to be the be all or end all. I think your focus should be kind of at this level, the exercise that you're doing, your focus should just be on remembering to breathe. And if that's an easy way for you to do it by focusing on your breathing, that's good. Just be careful you don't hyperventilate when you're doing it. So don't breathe so much in those movements that you end up feeling a little bit dizzy, a little bit lightheaded when you do it, because that will obviously not be good at all. All right, so I hope that helps. So whenever you're inhaling, you're kind of loading the movement up, you exhale to push away, all right? That'll be the same for most of the movements there. Okay, Helen, does it make a difference if you do 4 full body workouts a week or concentrate on different muscle groups 4 times a week, such as back and arms one day, chest and legs another? Okay, there's not going to be too much difference between them at the level we're at. If you were going through some sort of strength cycle or hypertrophy cycle and you were really trying to kind of increase muscle in a particular area, they both have value, but something like a split muscle group, like you mentioned the second part of it, would probably have a little bit more benefit just because you can really isolate the muscle group and you can get that overload. So what's important is that we overload the muscle when we're doing it. Okay, so what's great about 4 full body workouts is you're not necessarily restricted on what you can do in a session. All right, so there's loads of different things that you can do, and you haven't got to worry about the different days that you're going in. All right, so you could do 4 days, and even if you only end up doing 3 days that week because hey, life gets in the way, at least you've got 3 solid full body sessions in there. If, for example, you were following like a split day and you were doing back one day, chest another day, and shoulders and legs another day, you might get to the end of the week and end up missing a workout. And it can be quite a common thing, and I've definitely done this in the past where we make a joke about Monday being International Chest Day. Like everybody, all the guys go in the gym and do chest on a Monday, and legs will be on like a Thursday or Friday. And what tends to happen is that will be the workout that gets missed. Okay, so if you're able to stick to the schedule, I definitely think splitting it into those, those separate muscle groups is great, because like I said, you can really overload the muscle group then. That's putting the muscle under more tension. That's probably going to generate better results. But think about your daily life. I think for you, Helen, as well, because of your job, traveling a lot, I think you'd be better just sticking to full body workouts as you go. Obviously, the program that I email out, if you don't get this, let me know if you want to join my email list. I send out a weekly program, so 4 workouts or 5 workouts, and I try to target the different areas. So I'll do like 1 upper body day. I'll do like a squat day, so focus a little bit more pushing strength, quadriceps, glutes. I tend to do 1 kind of like more posterior chain, which is like deadlifts, those big compound movements. And then the other days are a little bit more conditioning based. I even try and chuck 1 long workout in there. So like on a Friday, like in our group, we go for a longer run. So that makes up the session where we have, we're getting a good 2 or 3 strength workouts in there. We're getting a couple, which are upper and lower body. We're getting a good kind of like HIIT training session in there, and then we're also getting that steady state training session in there as well. All right, so I hope that helps. It definitely depends on what your goal is, and I can give you more information on that. But I think for you, Helen, focusing on those four full body workout days is great, and that's kind of what we do in the program that I give you as well. Okay, perfect. Patsy said, confused about heart rate and burning fat. Are we better to do less intense exercise at a heart rate of 140 to burn fat, or aim for max heart rate? This is a really good question, and I actually said underneath that I was excited to answer this, because there is quite a common thing when, especially with the polar heart rates, when I get someone to wear the polar, first of all, it will give you your fat burn after the session, all right? Now, let me just explain this first. Imagine you got your 5 training zones, or your heart rate when you're exercising. You have, like, if it's polar, you have like the red zone, which is 5, yellow zone 4, zone 3, 2, 1. If your heart rate is up in the red zone, that's generally where you're working really hard, you're feeling out of breath, you're reaching that maximum heart rate, you're burning a lot more calories. Now, in this stage, you're utilizing carbohydrates as an energy source, okay? The reason for that is because for our body to break down fat and use as an energy source, so fat is in what we're consuming, not necessarily just adipose tissue, because fat in our body is known as adipose tissue. So I'm talking about fat that we consume. For us to break that down and use as an energy source, we need a lot of oxygen to be able to do that, okay? So to put that into perspective, imagine you're in a crazy ward or a crazy workout, you're sprinting, you're very out of breath, your body can't get enough oxygen in order for it to break down fat and use it as an energy source. If your heart rate was lower and you were working in maybe zone 2 or zone 3, maybe you went for a steady jog, maybe you're walking on an incline, just something at like a consistent pace, you're not necessarily out of breath. Your body's finding it easier to get the oxygen in because you're not huffing and puffing. That way, if we're doing it for over a longer period of time, our body is able to relax and go, hey, right, we don't need to use this readily available carbohydrate source. We have the time to go in and break down the fat and use that as an energy source. So that's what the body will do. So it has a little bit more time to do it. It breaks down fat. So that's where the whole old idea of like the fat burning zone came from. So if you're working at around 60 to 75% of your maximum heart rate, zone 2, zone 3, you're going to be using you're going to be using a lot more fat as an energy source rather than carbohydrates. Now, is one better than the other? Not particularly, unless you've got a really specific goal. Can you hear my cat? Yeah. Little bastard. All right, so is one more better than the other? Not necessarily. It depends on your goals and stuff again, so it could be a little bit more specific. But I'm just going to talk from general, because obviously like Lifestyle Reset, we're talking about kind of general health and fitness. What's important is your overall calorie burn, particularly if we're thinking about weight loss as your goal, all right? So if you go into the gym and you spend an hour working in zone 2, zone 3, which is your fat burning zone, like I just said, you're probably not going to get as many overall calories as you would if you were going to go and do 40 minutes in the red zone. You're going to burn a load more total calories over the session. If you have got a little bit, so this is where like HIIT training is very good, because we know that people suffer and don't necessarily have as much time to get into the gym. So in order for them to burn more calories, it would make more sense for them to go in and work very hard in zone 4, zone 5, recover for a little bit. And they could do a 20-minute session where they burn maybe 500 calories. Whereas to burn 500 calories working in that fat burning zone might take 45 to 50 minutes, all right? So that's where HIIT came along in terms of saving time. So one isn't better than the other. If we're thinking about overall calories in your lifestyle, then HIIT training and that higher intensity is going to be better using carbohydrates as an energy source. But if you have a little bit more time, or maybe you've got an extra session scheduled in the week, then it always pays to have that kind of that lower intensity or steady state session to start kind of eating into that fat and burning that fat as well. All right, so they're both important, but if you're thinking if time is a restriction and you don't necessarily get to the gym as often as you like, then you should be focusing on working in those higher intensity zones, and that as kind of like a first source, and then in your later sessions the lower intensities. What I quite like to do or program for people is, if they go into the gym, they do a warm-up, they do some weights, they might do maybe like a HIIT session in terms of like intervals, maybe they do running intervals, And then the last 15 to 20 minutes of their session might be a little bit lower intensity. They spend 10 to 15 minutes at 65%. Body's got a chance to utilize fat as an energy source then. What's very good about this question as well, though, is that high intensity sessions are obviously great for overall kind of burning calories and overall fitness levels, increasing our aerobic and anaerobic capacity. But it takes a big toll on our body as well. So if you're doing 4 or 5 high intensity sessions and your goal is, fat loss, then that's not necessarily the best or smartest way to train, because like I said, you still want to focus on burning from these different energy sources, but your recovery is also affected. If you're doing 5 real intense CrossFit or F45 or just in the gym doing 5 really intense sessions or circuits, your recovery is going to be affected. So you could almost do yourself a favor by taking maybe 1 or 2 of those workouts away and going, right, today is actually going to be about working in that fat burning zone. I'm going to go for a bike ride. I'm going to go for a jog. I'm going to keep my heart rate a little bit lower than what I normally do. I have the time to do it, 40 to 50 minutes. And you can work in that fat burning zone, because that kind of acts as almost like a recovery session as well, in terms of you're not really taking your heart rate too high. It's kind of like a nice mix to get in there. I hope that makes sense. I had a question from Simon. To reduce muscle soreness and aches after training, is that how to? Unfortunately, Simon, because you're right at the start of the journey here, it is one of those things that you kind of have to manage and just kind of get on with. What I would say is just don't try to do too much in your sessions. If you feel like if you do a session and you do 100 squats in your first session, then you're probably going to be sore the next day. You can manage that by just doing less. Because I would rather you do less in a session and have the focus on making sure that you do the next day. So we go back to that consistency, rather than just killing yourself in one session and then missing 2 days of workouts. All right. So the position that you're in at the moment, mate, is just find things that you can do that's not going to make you too sore, unless you can kind of accept it and you just, you're there, you're ready to get on with it. And then you can kind of adapt your sessions, increase the intensity, make them a little bit harder so that you will be maybe a little bit sore as you go on. The soreness, does it go away? I'm not so sure. Like there'll be days where I'll go in and do like a pretty intense session. A lot of my workouts are hypertrophy based now, and I'll do a chest session and I will be sore in my chest for the next couple of days. Legs is always a little bit hard as well. If you do a big leg session, every now and again, if I do a lot of lunges, I'll be sore for 4 or 5 days after. And then there's other times where I'm not too sore. So I don't think the soreness and stuff goes away. I think your tolerance to it gets a little bit better. But like I said for you, Simon, just manage it. Don't try to do too much in a session. Oh my God. Right, I'm going to go and see what's wrong with that cat. I hope you enjoyed it. That cat should be part of the act now, I think. But all right, I'm going to put this in the group so you can watch back through this. Thank you very much for the questions, and we'll do this again same time next week. Thank you.